Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Councilor Melanie Kebler, and I have with me Councilor Megan Perkins this evening. And we are here ready to talk about what happened at our council meeting this week on Wednesday evening. Want to start with laying out a few ground rules that we expect everybody in the comments to be respectful. And then we're not going to tolerate any kind of hate speech in the comments. Feel free to ask questions, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can. The intention tonight is to sort of go through what happened at our Wednesday meeting. That includes the full agenda. And I think I know the topic of most interest is the policy around our in-house neighbors. I think we're going to go through kind of everything else on the agenda first, and then get into that topic because I think that's the topic of most interest. So what I wanted to start with is that we did receive a presentation from Visit Bend in our work session. And a lot of the focus in that discussion was about not only their business plan, but about the plan for the sustainability fund and the investment in actual tourism facilities. So I just wanted to highlight that we on Wednesday voted to approve a business plan that included putting aside a chunk of money and allowing that money to be spent on tourism facilities. Tourism, I guess I would call it tourism related facilities is the official legal definition of it. And I'm really excited to see what our local sort of groups, advocacy groups, nonprofits will put forward as ideas for ways to improve basically infrastructure around places that people go in and around Bend, like Phil's Trailhead, like Mount Bachelor, like the river. And Megan, I know you were involved in this with our Economic Development Advisory Board. So maybe you can speak to a little bit how this came about and what you're excited for as far as the sustainability fund.
Well, I'm just really excited about this because the things that tourists love to spend their time on and the places that they love to go are the places that we all love to go too, which is why they're so popular. So, the options, I think Kevin was even mentioning from Visit Bend that this could be like a public bathroom downtown or charging stations or, their options are really unlimited for what they could be, as long as there's something that tourists could benefit from. And I think one of the things I wanted to clarify that was a little confusing is that we don't just sort of hand over money to the tourism department, that there is an actual law that we have to follow about what percentage of funds from the transit room tax goes to tourism. So it's not like the city just decided to spend $5 million on, well, we'll get to that, I'm sure, on the agenda. But the reason why this came about is just that we were one that many other places in Oregon we're doing this, and we haven't done this in Bend yet. And this is a really amazing opportunity for our city. So what I like about it is that it's going to be a really great diverse board that's going to be sort of looking at all of these proposals, and also that there's going to be a community ballot, which I think is really great too, that we'll all have a chance to vote on what we think should be, the beneficiary of the sustainability fund.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting aspect they sort of built into the plan for this fund, is that there'll be that sort of really opportunity for community input later this year on the first few projects that kind of rise to the top. I did want to highlight, and I'll try to share it here, that Kevin stated that there is an actual website that's already up. There it is. Yeah, Bend Sustainability Fund. And I think if you just type bendsustainabilityfund.com, you can go in, but it's also visitbend.com/Bend Sustainability Fund. And this has some information already about it. And there's actually, if I can make that bigger, a meeting or an ability to kind of learn more for groups that might want to apply or propose a project coming up fairly quickly on June 9th. To talk about, what does that look like if you want to maybe propose a project for this fund. So I just wanted to highlight that website as a way for people to learn more about what this actually is going to look like in practice. But I'm also really excited about it. So that was one of the bigger items. What happened with that is that we had the work session where we talked with Kevin about it. And then later in the meeting, we actually had the formal motion, which the whole council then voted yes on that business plan and approved it so that it could move forward. Okay, so and if people see me looking to the side, I'm looking at my other screen here and looking at the agenda to remind myself kind of what we went through on the agenda. So I want to highlight our proclamations at this meeting, at this first June meeting. I'll start with the gun violence proclamation that came to us from our amazing advocates in the local Moms Demand Action group. For people that don't know, Moms Demand Action arose. Megan, do you remember? Was it after
Park? No.
After Park?
Sandy Hook. I think it was Sandy Hook.
I think it was Sandy Hook. It's actually just really depressing that we can't remember which school shooting it was that prompted this advocacy group, but that there was just a mom who started a Facebook group and that grew into this movement of men and women, not just moms, that are demanding action on gun sense and tackling the problem of gun violence in America. So I'm really proud that our city was able to accept that proclamation and to weigh in on the fact that we absolutely agree gun violence is an epidemic, and that especially in Deschutes County, suicide is a real problem, and that gun suicide is a real problem, and that we can take steps to make a difference there. So I was happy to read that proclamation with Councilor Perkins and to be involved with that advocacy group for sure. And then the other proclamation I was really excited about was that I think for the first time in Bend's history, we had a queer council member write a proclamation for Pride Month, LGBTQ plus Pride Month in June, which was amazing. So, and yeah, it's so weird with COVID. You know, we were able to actually be in person in the room with each other for this meeting, but the public was not able to be there yet. I'm hoping we'll get there. I just feel like in the past, it probably felt a little more celebratory than it was able to be this time.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really important. So I think I'm trying to see if there was anything else that sort of came up during our meeting before we kind of get into, let's talk about oil by rail. So we passed a resolution, basically stating our policy position that we oppose oil by rail through Bend, that we really want some real solutions on safety for oil by rail. And oil by rail includes not just crude oil, but also LNG that's being transported and any other kind of really hazardous fossil fuel. And I think it was important for us to state a position on that and to state that we're going to actually advocate with our federal government, with our state government, to continue to work towards making that a safer practice if that's going to occur through our train tracks in the middle of Bend. So I don't know, Megan, if you have any thoughts on that.
Thanks to you and Jenna for bringing that to us. That's a really important thing, and I'm really glad that was also sort of the first thing to come out of the new Environment and Climate Committee. So that was really great to see too, that these great committees are starting to kind of suggest things and bring things to council that we should be looking at. So.
Yeah, really grateful for the Environment and Climate Committee for taking on the task of doing a little research for us on that and really bringing us a great memo, a great summary of sort of like, here's what you can and can't do. Just to be really clear, the city cannot unilaterally itself say no trains with oil can come through Bend. It is a federal system. There's a lot of federal regulation involved and a lot of autonomy that the rail system has that we don't have control over. But we can sort of draw a line, in the sand and say, here's what we feel about this. And I think there's a growing movement of cities that are sort of saying, hey, this is really dangerous. And hopefully as we move away from fossil fuels, it will become less frequent. But if it is occurring, what can we do to prevent an oil spill like happened in Mosier, Oregon? Or it goes through the middle of town. We received comments from people that live right next to the train tracks, and the devastation that could occur if we had a spill or a derailment here would be really awful. Yeah. So I think we just really need to keep our eye on it. And I think stating a position on it is important, and advocacy to our federal representatives is important as well. So I think that was important to have on our agenda. Okay. There was a few other things on our agenda. I apologize for not stating this intention up front. Kind of wanted to keep this to around 30 minutes. So I think I want to jump into what our main topic was at the meeting, which was talking with our homeless continuum of service providers and talking about the policy that was put together by the city manager regarding camps in the right of way. So I think we'll just go ahead and get into it. First, I was really grateful that we had service providers from Shepherd's House, from Family Kitchen, Stacy Whitty from Reach, and Colleen Thomas from the county that were willing to come to our meeting, spend their time, and talk to us about their work, what they do, and give us their perspective and answer questions during that policy discussion. I think that was really invaluable, and I really am thankful for their work in coordination with the city, which has been going on for weeks now. And not only that, but their work over the last years that they've been working on this issue. And I want to say up front that our local governments have underinvested in this system, have underinvested in the continuum care for our unhoused neighbors. So, I mean, I'll just state that up front. That's what we're dealing with here. And I think the issue is going to continue to be in front of us because of our housing crisis and what's been happening with COVID. It's just something that we're going to have to address. So, Megan, I don't know if you want to start with any thoughts you had about kind of how you approached the decision, or what were factors that you took into account when we entered that discussion, and how we came to a conclusion there.
Well, I think first of all, the impact of what we were doing is not lost on any of us. We were making decisions about where people are allowed to live, and that is a huge, impactful thing, a heavy thing, and none of us took this lightly at all. There were so many conversations that I know I had, and that you had, Melanie, with providers, with just community members, just trying to sort of figure out how we can go about keeping people safe, but also making sure that we're not moving people that don't need to be moved. And so this was a really heavy decision, and I could see in the room that we were all it was weighing on us very strongly. The way I sort of came about is that it's just a safety issue. And I did not feel from what I have witnessed, from what I had heard from providers, from what I had seen on sort of the impact report, seen from police reports, from city staff, I did not believe that it was a safe place for everybody involved that was on Emerson. And so that is where I was coming from. Now, where are they all going to go is the other thing. That is why I really pushed. First of all, we all pushed that this was only something that we wanted for Emerson right now, and we really wanted to make sure that was what we were doing. And secondly, that we have a discussion in our next council meeting about these interim options. Like what can we be doing before we have these new shelters, before we have our managed camps, because these things take so long to put together. What can we be doing in the meantime to provide services, and to provide places to go during the day, and to provide even some temporary shelter. I really liked what Stacy Whitty said about like having a list of safe camping spots, and that's something that I'm going to be looking into and pursuing. Hopefully before our next council meeting, because I think that's really important, because, again, we have to have some place for people to go. And if we're just sort of dispersing humans around our city, that's not really providing a safe and dignified environment. So while it was an incredibly hard decision, I do feel that it was a decision that had to be made. And I am very impressed with what I'm seeing from how the city is going to be sort of going through with this action, in terms of sort of working with Shepherd's House to have service provider appointments, in terms of storage, in terms of sort of sanitation, in terms of the length of time that they're going to be getting service providers. So that's where I'm at. But I just want to say again, it was a really rough decision, and something that I'm still thinking about
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Definitely leading up to it, thinking about it a lot, thinking about how to make the decision, what information would help me in making that decision. I think hearing from the service providers was invaluable. Hearing from city staff was invaluable. Understanding what the plan would be, were we to move forward with this policy. And I think it was important for us to say, hey, this is something that hasn't been implemented here before, and let's make sure that we get a report out on what actually happened, so that we can learn and do better in the future, and that we're not just implementing policy and sort of taking our hands off. Because I know this is such a crucial issue for all of us who sit on council. And again, it's an issue that has been in our region for years, and has been unaddressed adequately, in my opinion, in our region for years.
Yeah.
And we want to address it. We want to move into this issue and move into this uncomfortable space of addressing it. And there are going to be painful moments, like the moments I think that we had on Wednesday, about deciding what are the right ways to move forward for safety of the people that are camping there, for safety of the people that are accessing business there, who own businesses there, for safety of the people in the community. We have to, as elected officials, take into consideration all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what making those hard decisions is about.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk also about, we directed staff to come back to us kind of urgently with those interim solutions. But we also talked about and heard about the fact that we have some of those medium long-term solutions on the horizon. Mm-hmm. We actually heard from the city manager that Project Turnkey got some extra funding, is going to be able to hopefully fund our Ben Value In purchase that we're still working on, which will result in additional spaces for people. Mm-hmm. I'm really proud of the way that Shepherd's House in our city and other service providers have worked together to get that low barrier shelter out. I do think that makes a difference. I know it's not the ideal solution because it is not an all-day shelter, mm-hmm. but still having somewhere to sleep at night that is secure, I think that is valuable, mm-hmm. and a resource that we need in our community, and we need to keep expanding that. So Megan, I know you're deeply involved with the sounding board to help our houseless neighbors and the emergency task forces. So is there anything else you want to highlight as far as what we know is coming on the horizon to continue to provide extra resources? Or new resources, I guess.
Just that I do believe that the county has really heard us and has expressed some interest in wanting to move very quickly with a managed camp, and sort of liked the idea of us having this sort of this matching fund, saying, okay, we'll give $1.5 million of our money now, please match it so that we can get a managed camp started. I know that also that Eric King has written to parks and ODOT and the county and said, okay, we're ready to look at our surplus lands. We need you guys to be moving along with that as well. And I believe there is some movement there. So I said it in my council report, and I know it sounds cheesy, but this is just one of those situations where we all have to work together, and we have to be looking at solutions together, and we need to be solution focused. And I think that we can make some really big strides here in the next year in our city, and we owe it to our houseless neighbors.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the partnering with the county. I think that's just going to be key. We're seeing the effects of the housing crisis in Bend. We're seeing the effects of our unhoused neighbors not having anywhere to go in Bend, but it is a regional issue. It's frankly a state and national issue. That's I think people are seeing across the country. So having those regional partners is going to be really key. And I'm glad to hear that they've already responded to sort of what Councilor Broadman suggested Wednesday night, was like, look, we'll put money up, you put money up, let's get going on something in the next 30 days because we have to move quickly. And we simply can't wait anymore. This is an urgent issue. Mm-hmm. I also want to note for people watching that the county is actually going through its budget meetings this week. I think they had their final budget meeting today. They're working on their budget. If you'd like to talk to them about how they should spend their resources, now is the time to do it. And they also are receiving relief funds that they can use to help manage the crisis that we've seen exacerbated by the pandemic. So I think that's a good way. Another place to advocate for our houseless neighbors is with the county as well as with the city. And I'm excited to see what we can get done together for sure. So I think that covers most of what we talked about, and kind of covers, I think both of us kind of have laid out some of our thinking here. So I will take a look over. I see we have a comment about something going on in Clawson Road today, or maybe it wasn't today. I forget if it was yesterday. Sorry. It's been a really long week. Yeah. So I will say, I don't think what is happening on Clawson Road has anything to do with the decision that was made on Wednesday. We do have a parking ordinance in the city that is still in effect. I have been told by our police department that they do go out and enforce the parking ordinance. They do not seek to tow people that are living in vehicles, especially living in RVs. Frankly, tow companies will not tow something where someone's living in it, but they're not. That's not their intent. But their intent is to talk about people about the parking ordinance and enforcement of it, and talk to them about moving if that's possible. So that is not, to my understanding, related to the right-of-way policy. It's a different policy. No. Yeah. And Megan, I don't know if you want to add anything on that.
No, just that one gentleman apparently had multiple cars and an RV and a van, I think it was, all under his possession, and that was sort of one of the parking ordinance situation. There was rumors about a fire. They're still investigating. I know there wasn't rumors about a fire. There actually was a fire. I don't know. I'm not sure what the result of that was or where it ended up, but it was around Clawson Road the night before. So I believe that must have been Wednesday night. There was a fire as well, but no, none of the actions that the police have taken, as far as we've been assured, have nothing to do with that right-of-way policy. We have strictly said it is for Emerson Road only, but they do have to follow these parking ordinances.
Yeah, and I'm aware that they issue notices and that they continue to work with people. And again, they are not seeking to tow anything where someone is living in the vehicle. There are abandoned vehicles that have been on those roads. And I can't speak to how many or which that may have been towed, but if someone is living in the vehicle, that's not something they're seeking to move. And again, a tow company is not going to move a vehicle with someone living in it, especially not an RV. So I think that that's kind of the information I want to put out there about that. And again, we're not authorizing. We didn't decide on Wednesday to just say go ahead and go in tomorrow and erase this camp. There is a plan, I think a very detailed plan that has been put together by service providers. I know, Megan, you were on a meeting talking with them about that, about doing outreach and about the timeline. I don't know, Megan, maybe you can share a little bit about the timelines just so people understand. Kind of the sequence of events we expect to happen now. After Wednesday.
So next week on Monday or Tuesday, there's going to be the 2-week notice that for service providers that this is going to happen on Emerson, and then I have to look at a calendar here. Sure. I believe so the end of the following week, the 72-hour notice will be given to the residents on Emerson Road, but it will be more than 72 hours. It'll be over 90 hours, if not more than that. But they wanted to give as much time as possible. And then at a certain point, the road will have to be closed for a couple of days while this is happening. And they're going to have, sort of storage. They're working on sort of a storage plan as well for people's items and inventory, and really trying to make sure that they're doing this in as much of a dignified way as you can when you're doing something as as horrible as this. I can tell you that there are probably 20 city staff working on this. They're going to do drills for this to make sure that this is going to go as smoothly as possible. And so I feel that, and that the city is just working really closely with the service providers there, who have like a sign up sheet, who are going to sort of to talk about like who's going to be there and what day, to sort of be going, person to person and doing an individualized plan for next steps.
Right. And maybe you can talk about this, because I think you know more about it than I do. The concept of the by name list, because I think this has been tried in other cities, where the real individualized, personalized approach, where you actually have a name list. Mm-hmm. Who is it that's living on our streets unhoused, who's not able to have a house at this time, and kind of keeping track of people that way, how valuable that is, and actually moving people through to becoming housed. Maybe you can talk about what the plans are, what work has been done on the by name list.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that you see with service providers, sorry, my son keeps calling me, service providers, is that that there's a lot of missing information. So everyone has to basically submit data into a government system that HUD requires, and it's called the HMIS. But this is like getting into detail. But anyways, the issues are that there are certain places that are not giving that information to be entered into the system, and then there's a lot of duplication, right? So maybe Covo is entering in, a veteran that they're dealing with, and then maybe Shepherd's House is entering a veteran that is in there for their day shelter or their night shelter. So having a quality list there's not duplicates, and that you're where basically every single person, in your area lives, their name and their story. And having this quality list they're finding is really, like, that data is the absolute key to really sort of solving the issue of how do we get people housed, and being able to see that this person was, and see the trends of, this, we're having, our numbers are going up because X happened, and our numbers are going down because we opened up a new shelter, that kind of thing. So that's sort right. of we're going through a process of really figuring out, especially also with providers, like who is reaching all of these different areas, because here it's very different than like New York City, right? Because in Bend we have people that are living on forest land, we have people living on county land, we have people living on park land, and on city land, and so it becomes a very difficult process to do that, and it's something that now the providers are really working on, and we're hoping to continue to work with Community Solutions on that, and doing a better job with that.
Yeah. I think that's going to be so key for the future is developing that type of list, because from every readout, every article I've seen about a city that has functionally reduced homelessness to zero involves that strategy. Mm-hmm. Of really knowing who it is, that you're dealing with, what mm-hmm. is their story, and keeping mm-hmm. track of people individually. Mm-hmm. And again, I want to state that the fact that our service providers haven't done that yet is not on them. Yeah. It is the fact that we have not invested in this. We mm-hmm. have not built the capacity in our service providers to mm-hmm. do this work, and that's what we need to do. Mm-hmm. It is not their mm-hmm. fault. So I just want to make sure I keep reiterating that. Yep. So I think we're at the end of kind of the time that I allotted for this. I hope that we were able to provide some clarity a little bit about what happened at the meeting, and what kind of our decision-making process was. The comments will be there, and I can try to go back, and Megan and I can try to go back and answer anything that we missed. Yeah. I did want to share just a couple other things. We talked about at the meeting, and didn't highlight too much, but we have some other programs that I would love to hear people advocating for. And just if you know anybody in the community, things like our safe parking program. Mm-hmm. I don't know if people know, but like anybody that owns a parking lot, it doesn't have to be a nonprofit. It can be a business. It can be a church. That wants to help on this issue and is willing to look into the safe parking program. We have set our city code to allow for that. and to set up a program for that. And we need more participants. So I think that's one of those kind of interim temporary measures we'd love to see more people taken care of. And thank you so much to the people that the churches and the people that are already participating, but the more the better. It's a very successful program. I can't remember, Megan, we heard like 50% or so.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that number of people moved into a better solution after participating in the safe parking program. So I think that's just so important to highlight that for people, to advocate for that, to keep that in mind in our community. And I think we'll probably have another one of these, but I just want to highlight that we have a bunch of great community groups putting together an awesome Juneteenth event that I just wanted to highlight for people. If you go on Facebook, I think you'll probably be able to find the event. And Megan, do you know what the website is? Is there a website? I don't know if there's a website, but it's June 19th, obviously, and it's 11 to 5, and it's sponsored by a whole bunch of awesome groups in the area, and it's going to be a really fun day, kid friendly, and there'll be food and like spoken word and educational events and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really great. Yeah, I wanted to put that on people's radar. Okay, I think yes. I think I found the Fathers Group website. I mean, if you just go to thefathersgroup.org, they're one of the groups putting this on, and they actually have a link to the Juneteenth event on their website. So I want to thank Councilor Perkins for coming online with me to do this tonight. Thanks to everybody who's watching. Thanks to everybody who submitted a comment. Again, sorry if we were not able to get to your comment. We'll look through the comments afterward and answer what we can. And let me throw up the banner here. Oops, wrong one. There you go. You can always send us input questions to Council All. We will see that. I don't know, Megan, I read every single one of my emails. I'm not able to respond to everyone, but I definitely read every single email that I get. So please feel free to email us your input, your questions, your ideas, and your concerns. And with that, I think I'll end. But thank you again, Councilor Perkins, and thank you again, everybody, for watching.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.